think since we've gotten Braun back, we haven't been as organized offensively. Too many random possessions, so.
Everything exploded inside the Lakers locker room, and nobody in that building was ready for it at all. According to multiple sources close to the team, tension finally snapped between JJ Redick and LeBron, and it all traced back to one awkward clip from last Christmas that resurfaced online and refused to die. One moment turned into whispers. Whispers turned into frustration. And before anyone could smooth it over, voices were raised and lines were crossed. Here is where things get messy fast. I have the behind-the-scenes story, the locker room mood nobody wants to admit, and the real reason this moment matters way more than people think. This was not just a bad day or a loud disagreement. This clash hit straight at LeBron's grip on the locker room and what his future in LA actually looks like. Some around the team are quietly asking whether this was the first real crack in the foundation. If you watched that Lakers game against the Rockets, you probably felt the shift too. The energy was different, the flow was cleaner, and the crowd was locked in before LeBron returned and changed the rhythm again. That crash out made sense to a lot of people watching closely because the team had finally found a groove that did not depend on one voice dominating every possession. And here's the part that really shook the coaching staff. Earlier in the season, LeBron had to step away due to injury, and for once, it did not feel like panic time. It felt like an opportunity. The Lakers stopped forcing hero moments and started playing connected basketball that actually made sense. Over the first 14 games without him, the Lakers went 11-3, and that record was not luck at all. They were not just surviving games, they were controlling them. Ball movement improved, spacing made sense, and decision-making looked sharp across the board. It was efficient, calm, and surprisingly fun to watch again. By early December, the numbers backed it all up loud and clear. The Lakers ranked top 5 in offensive efficiency, putting up around 115 points per 100 possessions, which screamed structure and clarity. No chaos, no rushed possessions, just smart basketball. Luka Dončić was running the offense like he had been there for years, setting the tempo, creating looks, and making everyone better around him. Austin Reaves was not just scoring. He was picking his moments, dropping 30-plus in multiple games, finding teammates, and attacking with confidence that lit up the crowd. Rui Hachimura was stretching the floor, defending multiple spots, and quietly doing the work that keeps lineups balanced. Every piece was clicking into place. Look at November 15th, 2025 during the NBA Cup stretch against the Pelicans. The Lakers did not flex or showboat. They simply handled business and walked away in control. That game summed up exactly why some people inside the organization started wondering what this team really looks like moving forward. Luka went off with 24 points and 12 assists. Reaves exploded for 31 points, grabbed 8 boards, and straight up controlled the glass with 20 rebounds, while Rui calmly added 14 points of his own. And here is the wild part. All of this happened without LeBron on the floor. No forced shots, no ego possessions, no one hijacking the offense. There was not a single hero ball moment because nobody needed to play hero. The system was doing the heavy lifting and it looked smooth. Fast forward a couple weeks to December 1st, 2025 against the Pelicans again, and nothing changed. Luka torched them for 34 points, Reaves answered with 33 points and 8 assists, and Ayton dominated the paint like a grown man handling business. The team shot efficiently, rotations were tight, and spacing was clean. Fans could actually sit back, relax, and enjoy the game without screaming at their screens every other possession. This is what functional basketball looks like. And defensively, the chemistry was impossible to miss. The Lakers were giving up around 108 points per 100 possessions, which put them comfortably in the upper tier of league defenses. Rotations were crisp, closeouts were automatic, and the younger players stayed disciplined. Nobody had to bark orders or point fingers. Players just rotated because they knew where to be. That is rare defensive maturity for a roster that is supposed to still be figuring things out.
Throws in a near prayer. Timeout, Eric Spoelstra.
What made it even sweeter was the system itself. Ball movement, spacing, off-ball cuts, smart reads. Everything that makes basketball feel intelligent and fluid was on full display. They were not relying on isolation possessions to bail them out late in the clock. That freedom allowed every young guy to shine without feeling crushed under the shadow of you-know-who. So yes, in early December 2025, before LeBron returned full-time, the Lakers were not just winning games. They were building an identity. They looked like an actual team, playing the way a well-coached professional basketball squad is supposed to play. The vibes were right, the numbers backed it up, and the locker room felt aligned. Then LeBron came back, and just like that, everything the Lakers had built while he was out vanished. Gone. The shift was immediate and ugly. The same roster that had been moving like a well-oiled machine suddenly looked stiff, disconnected, and visibly frustrated, and the numbers exposed it fast. The Lakers' defensive rating jumped from 108 to 117.8 points per 100 possessions almost overnight. That is not a small dip. That is a full-on collapse. In the 6 games following his return, the team went 2-4, including losses to squads they had handled comfortably just weeks earlier. Mid-December was supposed to be momentum time. Instead, it turned into a live lesson on how quickly one superstar can drag a franchise backwards. And if you really want the cold truth, look at the advanced stats. Over a 13-game stretch, LeBron posted a minus 4.5 box plus-minus, while Luka sat at plus 2.6 and Reeves at plus 2.9. That is not noise or bad luck. That is a loud signal. The young core was lifting the team while LeBron was actively weighing it down. Want even more proof? When LeBron, Luka, and Reeves shared the floor together, the Lakers were outscored by 10 points over 132 minutes. Yes, even with the 2 rising stars cooking, LeBron's presence still came out as a net negative. That is not leadership. That is a ball and chain. And the on-court visuals made it even worse. In one game, LeBron scored 18 points but finished with a brutal minus 33. In the same game, another teammate scored 0 points and still only posted minus 29. Let that sink in. The so-called king hurt the team more than someone who did not score at all. And instead of setting the tone, we saw him arguing with referees like he was putting on a performance, while defensive rotations were ignored and teammates scrambled to clean up the mess. This was not elite basketball. It was chaos, and everyone watching could see it. For him, it felt like watching a basketball simulation glitch in real time. If you have followed the Lakers long enough, this feeling is not new at all. It was pure déjà vu from the 2020 to 2021 season all over again. Back then, the roster had talent, the system actually worked, and the pieces fit together. But the moment LeBron stepped back onto the floor, it felt like the rules suddenly stopped applying. The front office looked the other way. Mistakes were ignored, accountability vanished, and standards quietly slipped out the back door. And now here we are again, except this time it hits harder because everyone just watched a Lakers team function without him weeks earlier. That contrast is exactly what triggered the chain reaction that ended with JJ Redick and LeBron standing toe-to-toe behind closed doors. By the time JJ Redick walked into that post-game press conference, this was no longer about missed shots or bad rotations. This was bigger than basketball. This was Christmas Day, national TV, spotlight everywhere, and the Lakers getting embarrassed by the Houston Rockets 119-96. And even that score was generous thanks to a few lucky bounces and isolated moments of individual effort. If you actually watched the game, you know the Rockets had it wrapped up early. By the third quarter, Houston was loose, fast, confident, and connected. Meanwhile, the Lakers looked like strangers arguing mid-play over who was supposed to rotate. And here is the key detail everyone noticed. This mess did not exist before LeBron came back. That was the emotional wreckage JJ Redick walked out of when he sat down at the podium. And you could feel it immediately. This was not going to be one of those fake, we will watch the tape and clean it up answers. His tone was sharp, controlled, and deliberate. When he spoke about effort, professionalism, and responsibility, that line landed hard because everyone watching knew exactly what he meant. Then he doubled down. And at that moment, nobody in that room was confused about who the message was aimed at. Cameras did not need subtitles. Players did not need clarification. It was obvious. What made it worse was what happened next. DeAndre Ayton laughed it off afterward, acting like Redick had cracked a harmless joke. And that reaction said more than any stat ever could. Because when a head coach calls out professionalism after a national embarrassment and the response is laughter, that is fear culture. That is players knowing exactly who the criticism is aimed at and being too uncomfortable to acknowledge it. And that trail leads straight back to LeBron. The league has a long and ugly history when it comes to what happens to coaches or players who challenge him. Everyone inside the NBA knows the pattern. If you are not a superstar or someone with serious leverage, pushing back does not end well. This is not speculation. It is documented history. Go back to Cleveland. David Blatt had the Cavaliers winning near the top of the conference and everything running smoothly. The moment his relationship with LeBron went sideways, it did not matter anymore. Blatt was gone mid-season. Results meant nothing. Fast forward to Los Angeles and the same script played again. Frank Vogel delivered a championship in 2020. But when things got rocky later, accountability did not land at the top. Vogel became the fall guy and was pushed out.
Well, why do you think your team was unable to execute things that it was tasked with? Because we don't care enough right now.
It's a matter of making the choice. And too often we have guys that don't want to make that choice. And it's pretty consistent who those guys are. And so Saturday's practice, I told the guys, it's going to be uncomfortable. The meeting is going to be uncomfortable. I'm not doing another 53 games like this.
Even Eric Spoelstra nearly did not survive that era. People forget how close that situation got. That infamous sideline moment where LeBron physically bumped into him during a heated timeout was not just drama. The only reason Spoelstra stayed was because Pat Riley did not blink. He had real institutional power. Most franchises do not have that, and the Lakers definitely do not. So when Redick stepped up and said what he said, he was not just venting frustration. He was forcing the organization to make a choice: professional standards or superstar comfort. History tells us how that choice usually ends. And that is exactly why this press conference felt nuclear. This was not emotional. This was calculated. Redick picked that moment because the entire league had just watched the same collapse he did. And fans are tired too. People are exhausted with this modern NBA culture where coaches tiptoe around stars and effort becomes optional. Redick broke the biggest unwritten rule by putting professionalism above optics. And that is why it felt reckless in the best way possible. For once, someone inside the Lakers building treated LeBron like a player instead of an untouchable figure. And that single decision may have changed everything. And in the NBA, moments like that always come with consequences. At that point, the real question was not whether Redick was right. The question was whether he would be allowed to survive being right. Because while Redick was laying down the law, the players were not exactly rushing to back him up. You could feel it in the locker room, that old unspoken rule creeping back in loud and clear: do not cross LeBron James. That fear, that hesitation to speak honestly is exactly what has been dragging the Lakers under for a long time, long before it showed up in box scores. And it is not subtle anymore. Remember earlier in the season when DeAndre Ayton admitted that not everyone feels comfortable telling LeBron what to do on the court? At the time, it sounded like harmless locker room talk. Now it lands very differently. Because Ayton is one of LeBron's closest guys. If even he is holding back, that tells you everything. The fear is baked in. And it is not just one player either. Around the league, the chatter has been growing louder that LeBron's presence shuts down accountability, and the evidence keeps stacking up. Now compare that to Luka Dončić, and the contrast could not be sharper. Luka is one of the biggest assets the Lakers have right now, maybe the biggest. But he plays like someone still chasing respect, not demanding it. He listens, executes, lifts teammates, and thrives inside structure. He has not even been with the team that long, yet when Luka is on the floor, standards suddenly return. He does not bark orders or dominate the room. He earns attention by playing smart, pushing pace, and holding himself accountable first. That culture is something LeBron's presence has quietly suspended for years. That is why Redick snapping was not random drama. It was an intentional disruption. He was breaking a system that lets excuses slide and mistakes get ignored. And Lakers fans noticed immediately. Many have started saying the front office should shift focus and energy toward Luka, and honestly, it makes sense. By the time Luka officially arrived in Los Angeles, the Lakers were already deep in the LeBron chaos we just laid out. Luka did not just join a roster, he walked straight into a narrative. A locker room where fear existed, where one player felt untouchable from day one. And Luka made it clear fast that this was not going to be a participation trophy situation. The trade shocked the league. Then the Lakers doubled down almost immediately, locking him into a 3-year, $165 million extension. That was not just a contract, that was a statement. It said the Lakers see the future and it is not built around fear or ego. Since then, the team has played faster, sharper, and more connected than they ever did under LeBron. That shift is impossible to ignore, and that is exactly why Redick's stand mattered so much. Because for the first time in a long time, someone inside the Lakers organization challenged the untouchable standard. Whether the franchise chooses professionalism or comfort next will decide everything. And let's talk about spacing, because this is where everything changed fast. Suddenly, every cut had air, every pass had purpose, every pick and roll actually had room to breathe. With Luka Dončić on the floor, the Lakers' offense didn't just improve, it came alive. The system that had gone quiet suddenly started singing again. Same structure, same concepts, but now with full star power and none of the ego weight dragging it down. Offensively, efficiency jumped almost instantly. Defensively, the contrast was even louder. While LeBron James's return pulled the Lakers' defensive rating down by nearly 10 points per 100 possessions, Luka's presence historically does the opposite. Effort rises, rotations tighten, and accountability comes back into the picture. Luka's arrival in LA mirrors moments we have seen before. Think Kevin Durant heading to Brooklyn in 2019, or Giannis Antetokounmpo rising in Milwaukee. Like Durant, Luka was brought in with a clear mandate, be the cornerstone and push the franchise back into relevance. But unlike Brooklyn's experiment, which struggled with chemistry and power struggles, Luka walked into a locker room full of young, coachable talent and leaned all the way into it. He paired elite individual skill with a team-first mindset. He lifted teammates instead of towering over them. He embraced structure instead of bending it. And while Luka was quietly stabilizing the locker room and holding the offense together, the fan base completely lost its mind. LeBron's die-hard supporters went into meltdown mode online. Suddenly, it was not about basketball anymore. It turned into fantasy wish lists designed to protect their so-called king at all costs. And the most outrageous idea of all started circulating loudly.
Your coach told us he planned for it to be a bad day. He said it'd be an uncomfortable day for the team.
And y'all bought into that.
We just listened.
Yeah, y'all. Don't worry about it.
Believe deep.
I'm not going to tell y'all. I'm not saying anything. Not everybody could go up to LeBron and think they could tell LeBron how to do certain things and
Trade Luka! Yes, seriously. Trade the one player stabilizing the locker room, fixing spacing, and running the offense. Some fans actually suggested flipping Luka for role players and draft picks just to make things easier for LeBron, as if Luka was just another movable piece in a loyalty game. It was peak denial, and honestly, one of the most disconnected takes imaginable. The numbers we already walked through make it obvious. The Lakers' issues were not about talent gaps. They were about structure, accountability, and one central presence disrupting both. But instead of facing that, certain fans chose imaginary trades, like that would magically fix a broken foundation. Here is the part people are not talking about enough. Even the front office has noticed. Quietly, authority has started shifting. Decisions that once revolved around LeBron's input are now happening without it. Luka, through his play and influence, is becoming the actual power center of the team. And if you think this is just another aging superstar phase, think again. To understand how wild this situation is, you have to look at history. Superstars dragging teams down is nothing new, but this version is different. Take Kevin Durant in Brooklyn in 2021. On paper, it was a dream setup. KD, Kyrie, Harden, a super team built to dominate. Yes, there were isolation issues, chemistry problems, and playoff failures. But even then, the Nets' defensive structure did not completely collapse. The baseline still existed. Durant hurt flow, but not fundamentals. Now compare that to what is happening here. This is not just isolation basketball. This is defensive effort eroding in real time while the leader pretends nothing is wrong. Look at Allen Iverson in Philadelphia. Incredible scorer, limited defender, legendary offensive load. But his defensive shortcomings were tolerated because he was not the most protected, most powerful figure in the league. The context mattered. Or take Shaquille O'Neal in 2007 and 2008, aging, injured, locker room tension with Kobe. Yet even then, it never reached the point where a coach had to publicly call him out on Christmas Day. That is what makes this moment different. A head coach calling out LeBron publicly on the biggest stage during a holiday game is almost unheard of. That alone tells you how broken things had become. This was not a random outburst. It was a signal. And whether the Lakers follow the signal or retreat back into fear will decide the direction of the franchise fast. And I already know the question sitting in everyone's head right now. If it's really this bad, why is he still allowed to have so much control inside the Lakers organization? The answer is not basketball at all. While LeBron James may not be focused on making this team better on the court, there is one thing he has mastered to perfection: perception. Movies, commercials, social media clips, charity headlines, highlight packages. It is all part of a machine that never sleeps. LeBron is not just a player anymore, he is a walking brand. The NBA is his stage, and everything around him is designed to keep that image intact. And here is where things get dangerous. The more people consume that polished version of him, the less they actually see what is happening between the lines. His media machine keeps pushing the King James narrative, and it works because it distracts from the chaos he brings to the floor. Now put that next to Luka Dončić, and the contrast is wild. Luka arrived in LA with zero entourage drama, no cameras hovering over warm-ups, no viral clips being manufactured every possession, no meme factories spinning narratives. He does not need hype. He earns respect the old-fashioned way, by producing, by defending, by elevating everyone around him. And that is why the media cannot fake Luka's story, even if they wanted to. His efficiency, his impact, and his defensive engagement speak louder than any press release ever could. Fans see it too. More and more people are already calling Luka the new face of LA basketball, and it is happening naturally, not through branding tricks. Meanwhile, LeBron's media persona keeps feeding itself. Endless debates about whether trades should revolve around him, whether he deserves more touches, whether the roster should bend backwards to fit his comfort. And that is the real problem. His perception is now influencing basketball decisions, instead of basketball influencing how people see him. And here is the brutal truth. This is not just awkward anymore. It is actively rewriting LeBron's legacy. The self-proclaimed king, who was once untouchable, is now dragging his team down with him simply because he refuses to step aside. How are you over 40 and still holding the franchise hostage to protect your ego? Compare that to Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. Those guys did not care about comfort zones. Accountability was not optional. It was the law. You messed up, you heard about it immediately. Effort was non-negotiable. The team always came first, no matter who you were. And that is exactly why Luka Dončić and JJ Redick are quietly becoming the real heroes of this Lakers era. Luka leads by example every single night. Young, coachable, relentless, and hungry. Redick is the firecracker, the guy willing to say what nobody else will and force accountability where fear once lived. Together, they represent something the Lakers have desperately needed: a pivot, a reset, a chance to build around standards, effort, and structure instead of nostalgia. This is the franchise's one real shot at chasing something meaningful again without leaning on a superstar clinging to past glory. This decision should not be about ego at all. It is about survival. The Lakers need to stop pretending a 41-year-old can carry this team into the future. This is Luka's era now, and the front office, the coaching staff, and the fans all have a choice to make. Keep babysitting LeBron and watch this roster slowly collapse. Or pivot fully, put Luka at the center, demand accountability, and let the real leader finally run the show. Because the real question is not if the Lakers need change. It is whether they have the courage to actually choose it.